Hi there, this is Vinney Chopra, your host of the Apartment Syndication Made Easy podcast, sequel to my book that became international top seller. Thank you for joining me every week. As you know, I only bring best of the best, maybe once a month, guest into the show. And today I am very privileged to have Lane, my good buddy, join us. Lane Kawaoka, right? Did I pronounce it right?
Yeah, you got it right,
Yeah,
Vinney.
just a great personality who has done so well. I'm so proud of him. I'm an engineer. He's an engineer. Actually, he interviewed me, and I'm so glad to dig into his life and how he's made into syndication business and done very well. From leaving the W-2 job, and a lot of us listening, possibly you are aspiring to do what Lane has done and few other people have done. So let me introduce Lane owns 3,500 plus rental units and is the leader of Hui Deal Pipeline Club, which has acquired over $255 million of business in real estate by syndicating over $25 million in business, pooling money together, syndicating, and of private equity since 2016. Wow, that's amazing. Lane uses his engineering degree to reverse engineer. I want to dig into that, Lane, with you. The wealth building strategies that the rich use in the top 50 investing podcast, Simple Passive Cash Flow. Welcome, Lane, for taking the time, buddy. And we appreciate you. You bet.
Hey, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me,
Yeah,
Vinney.
tell us more. Kind of dig us a little bit deeper. How you got started and where you grew up, and I know you moved back to Hawaii now. Yeah,
Yeah. So I grew up here in Honolulu, Hawaii, and the way I got brought up was, you go to school, you get a professional degree, and you work at that job for 40, 50 years,
yeah,
and you invest in the 401k. I call this like the linear path, and I graduated college with an engineering degree and went
yeah,
to work at the job, and you know I went to go buy that house that everybody says you should own, which I don't really agree with, but I did it anyway. And well, I didn't know that back at the time. I didn't know that at the time, but I bought a house living in Seattle, lived in it. But because I was traveling for work all the time, right?
mhm,
Because that first job you always get out of college just sucks, right?
yeah,
So I just started to rent it out. The rents were $2,200 a month, and the mortgage, the PITI, was $1,600 a month. And I was like, wow,
mm,
I gotta keep doing this. This is my ticket out of the rat race, so I
yeah.
can quit the day job. And that was kind of where it all started, right? Because that was a lot of beer money to a young 20-year-old something kid back then, back in 2009.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So true, so true. And I know, like, you've been teaching a lot of young engineers, right? And a lot of people how to really get into the syndication world also, but not only that, just the investing small, right? I remember listening to you and you also interviewed me. Tell us a little bit more, like, so you started house hacking, right? And then after that, how did you get to your first multifamily?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for other people going straight to multifamily, but the way I did it, I didn't have much money when I first started.
Mhm.
Luckily, I didn't have too many student loans, which a lot of kids have, but was able to save maybe 30 to 50 grand a year out of college. A lot of that was by eating quote unquote ramen noodles, which is just being frugal, right? Like
Mhm.
just being pretty dang good with my money,
Yeah.
which a lot of people are,
Yes.
but I put it into buying rental properties, and I started with turnkey rentals.
Yep.
My first few units were in Seattle, but then I realized that sophisticated investors don't invest for appreciation or gamble on that. They invest for cash flow first. So I moved my portfolio to Birmingham, Atlanta, Indianapolis, and I just, year after year, I just kept on buying rentals. Right? It was moved at a turtle's pace initially, which a
Yeah.
lot of people don't realize. And then by the time 2015 came around, I had 11 rental units.
Wow.
And no, but that's where you hit that next aha moment, which is, wow, these single family homes are a real pain in the butt to operate, even if you have property managers
Yeah.
and they're not scalable. And when your property appreciates in value, as they typically do,
Yeah.
and your tenant's paying down your mortgage for 5-6 years, you're getting
Mhm.
pretty good equity, and unfortunately your return on equity goes down. And as investors, we're trying to keep that return on equity very, very high, as high as
Yeah.
we can.
Yeah.
And to do 1031 exchanges, I don't know why anybody does those, to be honest.
I've not done many. I'm so glad you're saying that. To be truthful,
I,
I would
I
rather just pay, that 15 or 20% and have the cash with me to do
right,
other
right.
things,
I mean,
Yeah.
what I did back in 2017 was, I started selling off a lot of my properties, and I had $200,000 of capital gains from those selling off those properties. But I had gone into so many deals prior to that and gotten my passive losses accumulating.
Yeah.
So I just offset that $200,000 of passive gains with
Sure.
$200,000 passive losses and wiped it right out. I mean, that's bonus depreciation for you. I mean, 1031s, if you're a syndication passive investor, they're obsolete.
So are so right, Len. And the other thing I have not really said publicly, I have not put too much money in IRAs. I mean, that's what, as a syndicator, we can even put our own retirement funds into the deals that we do. So it just
Yeah.
come out as a very positive step. A lot of people don't like IRAs now. Of course, there's a lot of money there, but anything like that. But it's the deferred payment plan, right?
Yeah.
Government just try to mesmerize us or whatever and put us all these. Can you share with that? I know you've talked a lot about demystifying that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I don't have any retirement accounts. Especially I think there's a one big factor is like, well, how old are you, right?
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you're like older than the age of, I don't know, 55, 60, you're
yeah,
kind of close to that retirement age. So yeah, maybe you might want to just hold on to it. But
yeah, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I might look 18, but right now I'm 34. I'd like to, have that money
Hey, we are the
before.
young ones. I'm 67, going to be 68 in August. And
Right.
I think it's the youth, it's the happiness, it's the mental mindset. And really doing what you enjoy doing, right?
Not
You know,
having to worry about appeasing a boss you don't like or doing
yeah,
something you don't enjoy.
Amen.
But but yeah, I mean, like the retirement accounts, like I would rather have my money because I'm going to retire probably in the next 10 years, right? And I want that money to live off of now. And I think at some point I will fund retirement accounts, but I think it's a phase thing. So my theory is all like, once you've built your today cash flow bucket, maybe that number is $10,000 to $20,000 passive cash flow per month.
yeah.
Let's be honest. I mean, well, maybe I haven't gotten there, Vinney, yet, but I don't. It's hard for me to spend more than 10 to 20 grand a month.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
if you can't spend it, you might as well throw it into a tax deferred retirement account at that point. But people are obviously doing this the wrong way, right? They're filling up their retirement funds first, and that way their today cash flow never gets filled,
So true, so
right?
true. I
And
mean,
it's like the same thing with, I'm starting to work with clients doing nonprofit accounts. It's the same thing, but it's the next bucket over. Once your cash flow today bucket is filled, then your retirement bucket is filled, your solo 401ks, your deferred comps. That
right.
then you fill up your nonprofit account
Yeah.
and make returns tax free that way too.
Totally, totally. I totally agree with you. What would you give if you had to do it over again? What would you say, Lane, you would have liked to do?
I probably wouldn't have gotten 11 single family home rentals. I probably would have waited until my net worth hit right around a quarter million, 500,000, and started my journey on multifamily a little bit sooner. But the single family homes were critical for me to get started.
Do that. Yeah.
And no syndicator in their right mind should take people's money if their net worth is that low,
So
unless they're desperate.
Yeah, you're so right about it. I mean, you're so right
Yeah.
because you want to show them, and fiduciary responsibilities are so immense. You know, you are getting on the loans and you're finding the right deal, but you got to have also the cash. I mean, with pandemic, which we are going through
Yeah.
right now, some of the, on the edge investors or syndicators are feeling the heat, right? And all that. So, no, I agree with you. I think, and again, also it's a team sport, right? We say that. So it's good to really get the good partner to put your net worth with their net worth to grow the business and so on. So you are into syndication. When did you really get into syndication mode? Uh,
I came to this apex in 2015. I said like I realized single family homes were not scalable and I need to do something else. I didn't have a clue what it was yet. I mean, I guess you follow the breadcrumbs and the logical progression is to do apartments, right? Which is multiple single family homes under
yeah,
one roof.
sure.
So I that's what I kind of fell into, and then syndication. You can syndicate anything, right? You can syndicate mobile home parks,
Sure.
self storage, life
Totally.
settlements,
Yep.
anything.
Yep.
Mhm.
But my first foray was learning how to analyze apartment deals, um, because a lot of like there are some transfer knowledge coming from single family homes. The whole um, the tenant operations and how do their behavior, working with a property manager, that type of stuff. There's definitely carryover that helps ease the transition. But in a way, apartment syndication and apartment deals are a little easier because you have better professional vendors, just more sophisticated team members around you.
So true, so very true, with a lot of experience. Like we have vertically aligned all the 28 deals, we have purchased, we have always managed them in house with our own teams of people from asset managers, regional community managers, lead technicians, and everything, right? How much, so are you still in the same markets where you started, or have you expanded out? What's your feelings about what's going to happen, the demographical shift, the big shifts ahead book? How has that changed your thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of stick to really the basics, which is the secondary and tertiary markets, so that I can cash flow off the bat.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm just kind of build my buy box here, right? So it's cash flow first, right? You got to cash flow, and
sure,
then look for a market that is a decent size,
yeah,
100,000 population and above, that has good job growth and population growth. And I don't know which of those two lead the other, but those are just two big indicators that I look for. And I liked the whole play on diversifying over multiple markets,
yeah,
but
yep,
they are mostly clustered in the south, southeast.
yeah.
Um, don't really get too much in the higher, like I mean, I go far as north as Des Moines, but
I
don't
see.
really get into the Indy or the Minnesotas, up there for some strange reason. But
I
but
see.
also, I mean, run the P&Ls and the rent rolls. If there's big enough gap in the existing rents today, I'll go anywhere. I'll go to Timbuktu in Alaska.
That's a very good point, what you
I,
just mentioned, the differential, the delta. I mean, that's where we can come in as operators and good underwriters to see how we can give value to our, residents, we call them, and then, increase the rent and so
right.
forth like that. That's the value add feature, of course, increasing the rental income with utilities bill back and otherwise delta within the scope, and then doing smart home features. I know I really have believed in that, with putting the nest in the thing, and the USB plugs and things like covered parkings, all the good stuff. And just stayed in Texas market. I know I sometimes feel regretful that I didn't go to Atlanta sooner and go to Florida sooner and other, but it's all, what you have now. Let's make the best of it. So where are you
Right.
investing now? And if you want to share some ideas to somebody new, I know with this pandemic, it's going to be a good, I think, downward pressure also. What's your thinking on that?
I mean, I think that there's going to be lots of opportunity for guys whose buy boxes to go after more distressed properties,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
the pandemic, like I buy properties with property, not problem properties, but
Mhm.
properties with owners who have problems. And COVID-19 or pandemic, I don't know if they're correlated, right? Like you might have a property that, is having trouble, and then the owner does some deferment of payments for 3 months, and now, which is not a good thing, because at that point they kind of train their tenants to be, deadbeats, and their collections will suffer. So if they had a B class building, now it might be a C class or worse.
Yeah,
And I just personally wouldn't buy a building like that. I like non-recourse Fannie Mae Freddie Mac debt off the bat.
yeah.
So, but not to say that there's a lot of operators out there that will do that, and good for them. I mean, there's a lot of meat on the bone for those type of projects. But as an investor standpoint, like I call me faint of heart, but I would rather not kind of go into those type of opportunities.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, you've scaled up pretty quick. So what would be the keys to your success to scaling, and what you would recommend to people just starting out?
I mean, one way is just go into the bigger deals. You get your unit count up pretty quick, but that's kind of a joke. But I mean, you just gotta. I mean, what I basically do is I just like dollar cost average, and I have a certain amount of money I'm looking to place, and with my cash flow, and I'm just trying to just consistently pick the best deal every quarter,
Hmm.
every few months. So a lot of times they'll line up right up against each other, but for the most part, I'm always buying, right? I think what you hear from most unsophisticated investors is they're like, oh, this COVID-19 thing, I'm gonna stop doing it.
Hmm.
Or they'll point out to something else and, oh, I'm gonna stop and see what's going to happen. Man, those guys are the guys who never do anything, right? I mean, the way I see it, and just like when I was buying single family homes way back when, like as long as the property cash flows and there's a nice buffer in the rents to lower the rents, I'm cool, right? And it took me a long time to feel comfortable with this strategy moving forward. But for me, it's been almost a decade now of kind of having this operating procedure that, most people will think, well, you're going into a lot of stuff, and, this is kind of strange times. Well, it's always strange times, right? When is it not a strange time?
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, as long as your rents exceed all your expenses and with a nice healthy buffer,
Yeah.
you should be cool. I mean, look at this COVID-19 thing. I mean, for a lot of some of the properties, the collections actually went up, but normally we're at 97%. Maybe April was about like 95%.
Hmm.
May was like 93. But when your break even points in the 55-60% range, there's a healthy buffer in there.
Sure, sure.
And people are asking me, well, how's apartment stuff doing? I'm like, I don't know, man. I mean, it's the same, right? I mean, this is exactly why you suckers should have not invested in the stock market in the first place.
Yeah.
So true. With
But
that,
that's mean, right? I mean, people are emotional, they're sad.
yeah.
So I gotta count for what I say. But right, I mean, that's why you should invest in, workforce housing that cash flows.
Surely, surely. So true. And also the senior also, Lane, like I've been following, senior demographics and all that, as everybody knows, 10,000 baby boomers are turning, 65 plus every night, midnight. So that has really also blossomed in my thinking and John's thinking that we are going after something really special niche now in developing these luxury senior livings.
Hmm.
So that's another thing, with the, that's a market which a lot of people can maybe look into. The other aspect is the dismantling after COVID-19. The Silicon Valley in my backyard, right here, I live near San Francisco, as you know. I mean, Silicon Valley is going to dismantle over here because a lot of engineers are going to move out of here, which is predicted, right? Going
Yeah.
to Austin, going to Florida, going to non-tax states, Texas, all the places, right?
Yeah.
Uh, So, how
I'm,
are you thinking your shift? Would there be any shift in your thinking, or would you still stay in the similar markets?
I'm probably still thinking the same way, just go where the population and job growth is, which is
Yep, yep.
southeast. But to your point there with the Silicon Valley, I mean, to me, I don't invest anywhere near those places. So I'm just kind of a spectator. But I think you're totally right. I mean, this whole COVID-19 thing,
Yeah.
I would have liked to actually be working at a real day job because I hated these meetings, right? And now everybody's forced to use Zoom
Yeah, I know, I
and they
know.
realize we didn't need all these stupid meetings in the first place.
Yeah, we are growing out of this as a better
Yeah,
person. And a lot of companies are looking in, oh my gosh, we have spent millions and millions of dollars in brick and mortar offices and financing and all that. Not only that, the time of going from home to there, 1 hour, 1.5 hour, and getting there, and then 1 hour coming back, or that's non-productive time. So, I mean,
right,
so which we can use very nicely. So I think we'll come out as a very, very big winner. Let me get
right.
into the life of Lane. Lane, tell us, how does your, day go in Hawaii, man? That's like dream, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't really surf. I don't really do
Yeah.
any like things that you think I would do. I mean, sometimes people visit me here, some of my investors, and they're like, "Oh, the weather's beautiful," and I just look from my window out here, and I'm like, "Yeah, it looks kind of nice." I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, when I was a kid growing up here, I didn't go to the beach. I'm sure same story, right? We're an engineer, right? In,
Yep.
in college, when everybody was out the quad playing frisbee, I was stuck in the basement trying to do my homework with the other engineering students, right? So the struggle continues. Maybe one day I will take advantage of what's out here, but for now, the nice thing is I don't have to wear a jacket ever.
That's so true. I know, I know. I'm wearing jacket for podcast. It's kind of
Yeah,
warm here too now. Of course, California is warmer than, very nice and so forth. But, yeah, no, Maui,
yeah,
Kauai, Oahu, beautiful, beautiful islands there,
yeah.
and no coronavirus case, which is tremendous.
Yeah, for the most part. But I think the reason why I moved from Seattle back
Hmm.
home was not only I grew up here, but the culture is a little bit different, right? Like I
Yes.
think where you're at, everybody's driving the latest Tesla or Corvette or whatever, right? Or Porsche. Like you just don't have that type of stuff here.
No,
Like
no.
everybody's kind of broke, I mean, there's jobs are horrible here.
Oh no.
Like when I moved back, I kept a day job mostly for like the health insurance, but
I
I
see.
did the same job for like 30% pay decrease.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know how people do it out here, but Hawaii is a great place if you have money to live because you can live pretty you just walk around in slippers and board shorts, right? Nobody knows who the affluent people are. You blend in pretty easily.
Sure, sure. Tell us more about, Lynn, how can people reach you? And I know your education course, you also, invest in deals. So, what nuggets would you give somebody who is starting out? How do you believe, or do you believe in social media, and what's your take on that, all that?
Yeah, so I think my biggest thing is like my podcast. A lot of people find me through that, and just it's more of like a follow my journey type of personal journal.
Yes.
Um, as far as my education side, I mean, I work with passive investors, a lot of doctors, lawyers, dentists, engineers, and we're not into the whole being do-it-yourselfers.
Yeah.
If you guys want to go start your own real estate company or do your own apartment syndication, go talk to Vinney, right? Right. My program is kind of built that in as little as 5 hours, I teach them to be the best passive investor they can be,
I love it.
arming with the network. Right?
And there's a
It's
big
a little
need
bit
for
different.
that. There is a huge need for that, to really find the right way to invest and diversify and what to ask and all those good things.
Right. I mean, I kind of was the same way. Like from 2010 to 2015, I devoured every single podcast out there.
Hmm.
But then I realized that man, my best asset was my day job. Like my highest and best use is not wholesaling houses,
Yeah.
finding apartment buildings, doing the boots on the ground stuff. But like, unfortunately, my highest and best use was going to that day job I didn't like,
Yeah.
and then using that money to invest passively.
Wow. So share something about reverse engineering to wealth building strategies. Could you give us some nuggets on that?
Yeah, so my big push these days is more on my education and family office consulting side.
Okay.
So something I've realized, yeah, I do apartment syndications on my operations side, but my biggest thing is like just consulting.
Aha.
What are the best practices in terms of infinite banking, um, tax, legal. I
Hmm.
mean, we're not using LLCs here. We're doing something a little bit more tricky with our asset protection, just because I work with more affluent clients. And
Hmm.
this is what family offices do who are $100 million and above, right? They
Right.
basically have like how Batman had Alfred, except Alfred would make guns and gadgets for him and stuff like that. But Alfred would pretty much do everything, right? For Bruce Wayne. So that's
Sure.
what I'm trying to create more for the niche market of, not everybody's 100 million, right? But
Yeah.
what do the guys that are $1 to $10 million net worth do? You certainly can't afford Alfred.
Mhm.
Yeah. No,
That's
that's
awesome.
true. That's true. That's true. Any kind of book that you're reading or any apps that you feel like so excited you want to share with the audience?
New stuff, I kind of got back on the bandwagon of doing Audible. You can say, I'm not gonna say her name right now because then she'll wake up, but you can say blah blah, read my book, and then they'll start reading, right? And it's seamless, and
Mhm.
it just goes. I think that's the hard thing for any entrepreneur is like you're always your time is so limited. You're
So,
always going from thing to thing, and it's kind of like snacking.
yeah.
You only have so much time to do little things. So if you can quickly get into what your activity you would like to do,
Yep.
that's ideal.
Hmm. So true. So very true. Hey, thank you so much, Lane, for taking the time to be with us, bud. I appreciate that. And again, God bless you with all the success in the world, all the happiness. And, again, how can people reach you? You did mention your website and your podcast. Please tell us again.
Yeah, I would say simple passive cash flow that's found on iTunes and Google Play, and if people want to get a hold of me and kind of get added to our passive investor network online in our private group, you can email me at lane@simplepassivecashflow.com.
Okay.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, no, thank you so much. Thank you, Lane. And hey, guys, again, thanks for watching and listening to us. Please look at the show notes below to get to Lane and to some of us, here at Monil brand of companies. This is Vinney Chopra talking to you. Look forward to seeing you next week. Remember, take it, make a difference in the lives of people that you serve. That's the main thing. If you want to help enough people get what they want, you will get what you want. And that's the real universal truth of life. Live with happiness, live with smile, like I say. And please share this podcast or, subscribe and give it to people and comment also so that we can bring a lot more great personalities to you. Thanks so much. See you next week.
Be sure to listen to Mr. Smiles next week with more golden nuggets and top-notch coaching tips. You can reach him by going to VinneyChopra.com or texting the word syndication to 474747. Be sure to like, comment, and share to show everyone how Mr. Smiles has brought your apartment syndication business to the next level.